Welcome back, Eagles fans. Today we have a lot to unpack, especially after the recent games that have had everyone talking. Jalen Carter has been on everyone's minds, and honestly, it's a topic that deserves a careful look, because there's a lot of nuance here that some people might be missing before we even jump into Jalen Carter. Let's start with the waiver claims situation that shook a lot of Eagles fans. We all remember the hopes of seeing a particular player come back to Philly. There was excitement in the air, speculation everywhere, and everyone thought he might return because of the subtle messages and hints shared by family members and insiders. It felt like the whole city was buzzing with anticipation, but as it turned out, the Buffalo Bills swooped in and got the claim first, and unfortunately for the Eagles, it didn't go our way. The team did submit a claim, they tried, but at the end of the day, that's how these things work. Sometimes the worst team in terms of certain losses gets the priority, and in this case, it was Buffalo. It was close, very close, and it felt almost personal, like the Eagles had been just inches away. But that's football, that's the game, and honestly, credit to Buffalo for making the move. They have passionate fans. And I hope the player finds success there, even though part of us wanted him back in Philadelphia. You could see the excitement he had about returning, the little tweets, the hints. The vibes it all pointed toward Philly. But sometimes it just isn't meant to be. That's the harsh reality. But it's a reminder of how unpredictable this sport can be. Now, moving on to Jalen Carter. And yes, I'm going to admit right away, maybe I owe him an apology. There's been a lot of talk about his performance, his struggles against certain matchups. And honestly, if you were watching casually, you might have been disappointed. But the truth is, there's context that changes the narrative entirely. Jalen has been dealing with a lingering shoulder injury, one that has impacted his play significantly this season. Coming into the year, he wasn't in peak shape, and when you combine that with the physical demands of the defensive tackle position, it makes sense that some of his games have looked off. Watching him get beaten by guards or struggling in one-on-one matchups is frustrating for fans. No doubt, but if you know he's playing hurt, it becomes a different story. The man is trying, he's battling through pain. And that effort doesn't always show up on the stat sheet. He's not the Jalen Carter we saw last year or during his rookie season, that much is clear. But blaming him outright without considering the injury would be unfair. There's still potential for him to get back to that level, and if he can, he absolutely deserves his contract and every recognition that comes with being a top player at his position. But until then, it's a process. We have to see him get healthy, get consistent snaps, and regain his dominance in the trenches. Speaking of trenches, let's not forget the larger context of the defensive line and the challenges they've faced this season. There have been moments when the opposing teams ran the ball almost at will, pounding inside and exposing weaknesses in the run defense. Campbell has been part of that conversation too, and his situation highlights the difficulty of managing a defensive front that isn't firing on all cylinders. The Bears game was a perfect example. It wasn't just about Jalen Carter. It was about the team facing an opponent who was relentless on the ground, who would run the ball on every down, regardless of distance, and who forced the Eagles to confront their weaknesses. Even if Campbell had been at full strength, the problem was systemic. You have a defensive line that needs cohesion, a linebacker corps that has to fill gaps, and when injuries and mismatches happen, the result is visible to everyone on the broadcast. The key takeaway here is that Jalen Carter's performance can't be viewed in isolation. It's part of a larger puzzle, one that involves coaching decisions, game plans, matchups, and yes, physical limitations due to injury. It's a reminder that football is a team sport, and individual statistics only tell part of the story. Shifting gears, we also have to discuss the coaches and the way they've handled recent challenges. Kevin Patullo, for example, has shown a side that many fans may not have fully appreciated until now. In press conferences, he has shared genuine emotion, a level of transparency that makes you realize how invested he is, not just in winning games but in the well-being of the players and the staff. When situations cross personal boundaries, when criticism impacts family life or personal safety, it's a tough spot for anyone in this position. Patullo addressed this with a mix of seriousness and emotion, highlighting the reality of being a coach in a city that cares deeply about its team. He reflected on his time in Philadelphia, the championship experiences, the Super Bowl celebrations, and the uniqueness of coaching here, while making it clear that family comes first. He emphasized focusing on the team and the week ahead, preparing for the next challenge. And keeping perspective, that level of candor is rare in sports media, and it shows a human side that often gets lost in the day-to-day hype. It's a reminder that these individuals are not just coaches and players, they are people with lives outside of the stadium, and respecting that as part of understanding the game's full story. Returning to the players, the discussion about Jalen Carter is complicated further by how expectations were set. Coming off strong rookie years or breakout seasons, fans naturally expect high-level performance. When an injury interrupts that trajectory, it challenges both the player and the audience to recalibrate expectations. Watching him struggle isn't enjoyable, and naturally, emotions run high when you see potential unfulfilled, but understanding context, acknowledging injuries, and recognizing the effort being put in behind the scenes paints a more complete picture. Jalen's path this season has been about resilience, about fighting through physical setbacks, and about finding ways to contribute even when fully healthy performance isn't possible. The narrative shifts when you incorporate this perspective, turning criticism into cautious optimism. You can see glimpses of the player he once was, and that's encouraging. It's a matter of time, proper recovery, and smart game management. He needs support, both from coaches and from the environment around him, to get back to that dominant form that makes him a cornerstone of the Eagles' defensive line. Finally, it's impossible to ignore the mental and strategic aspects of the game that influence individual performance. Football isn't just physical, it's mental chess, a constant evaluation of matchups, tendencies, and adjustments. The coaching staff is making decisions based on these layers, sometimes prioritizing matchups over pure talent deployment, sometimes holding players back to avoid further injury. Every decision, every snap, is part of a larger strategy that might not be immediately obvious. This is part of why some players, including Jalen Carter, may appear underutilized or less effective at certain moments. The challenge for fans is patience, understanding, and analyzing performance in a way that includes these factors. When you do that, the frustration softens and the appreciation for the complexity of the game grows. Jalen Carter, dealing with injury, dealing with pressure, and navigating a tough season becomes part of a broader narrative, one that is about resilience, about recovery, about the intricacies of football, and about how players, coaches, and fans interact to create the drama and excitement we all love about the game. Picking up where we left off, let's dive deeper into Jalen Carter's journey this season and what it means for the Eagles moving forward. The truth is, when you watch Jalen play, it's easy to get caught up in the numbers and forget the human element. Football is brutal, there's no denying it, and for a defensive tackle, the grind is relentless. Every snap requires peak physicality, perfect technique, and mental acuity to read the play and react in a split second. Now imagine doing all of that with a lingering shoulder injury. That's the lens we have to use when evaluating Jalen's performance. Yes, he's been beaten in some matchups. Yes, some games have been frustrating to watch, but it's not a reflection of effort or character. It's about dealing with pain while still trying to contribute to a team that relies on every ounce of effort from every player on the defensive line. And let's be honest, that's a tall order for any athlete. When Jalen came into the season, he wasn't in the shape he needed to be to dominate. Part of that can be attributed to the lingering effects of the off-season injury. Part of it might be conditioning, and part of it is just the reality of the NFL grind. Players are human, and sometimes they hit rough patches that aren't their fault. What's important is how they respond. And Jalen has been showing resilience. You can see flashes of his old form, the quickness, the power, the ability to disrupt defensive lines, but sustaining that level for an entire game has been the challenge. And that's where coaching and game planning come into play. The staff has to balance his snaps, integrate him where he can be most effective, and protect him from further injury, all while trying to maintain a competitive edge. It's a delicate balancing act, and it's easy to overlook just how complicated that makes the situation. Now, let's talk about the broader defensive issues. Because Jalen doesn't exist in a vacuum, the defensive line has faced its share of challenges this season. And games like the one against the Bears highlighted some of the systemic problems. The Bears were relentless in the run game, consistently pounding the interior line, and it forced the Eagles to confront weaknesses that go beyond individual players. Even if Jalen had been at peak health, the matchup was a nightmare. The line, the linebackers, the scheme, all of it had to hold together against an opponent who made their intentions clear. We're running, and we're going to do it no matter the down or distance. That's football at its rawest. and it exposes the truth about how team dynamics and strategy directly impact individual performance. Jalen's struggles were part of that larger story, not just a reflection of his talent or effort. The mental aspect of the game also cannot be understated when a player is dealing with an injury, especially one that affects a core function, like tackling or shedding blocks. The mental load is immense. You're constantly calculating risk, thinking about how to avoid aggravating the injury, and trying to maintain high-level performance. For Jalen, that means adjusting technique, managing his body, and still trying to execute at the level we all know he's capable of. That mental strain adds another layer to why his performance might appear inconsistent. It's easy for fans to get frustrated, to ask why he's not performing like last season. But the reality is that his brain and body are balancing an incredible amount of stress every single play, and yet, despite the setbacks, he keeps showing up, keeps battling. And that's worth acknowledging. Shifting focus slightly, the interaction between the players and coaching staff also plays a critical role in understanding Jalen's season. Coaches like Kevin Patullo have been navigating not only the X's and O's, but also the emotional landscape of the team. Patullo has demonstrated an understanding that players are more than just on-field performers. They're human beings with injuries, families, and personal challenges. His approach this season has included transparency, emotion, and a focus on holistic management, which in turn affects how players like Jalen are utilized. It's not just about putting the best player on the field every down. It's about strategic deployment, maintaining long-term health, and setting up the team for success in a way that considers both physical and mental factors. Jalen's limited snaps in some games are a reflection of that balancing act, not a lack of trust or ability. And speaking of trust, there's another element that often goes unnoticed: the locker room and peer dynamics. When you're dealing with injuries, it's not just the coaches who influence how you play, it's your teammates. There's an unspoken understanding among players about who can step up, who can handle certain matchups, and who needs support. Jalen has had teammates like Nico Dean, Maro Joe, and others who've rotated through the line, sharing the load and keeping the defense competitive. This kind of internal team management is critical because it allows injured players to recover without compromising team performance. It's part of the strategy that goes unseen on television, but is vital for a team trying to compete at the highest level week after week. Jalen's situation is a textbook example of how player health, peer support, and strategic deployment all intersect in modern football. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. Whispers are echoing through the NFL corridors, and it seems the Philadelphia Eagles are at the center of the storm. Sources close to the team hint that a pivotal decision could be made today, one that might not just affect the Eagles, but potentially shake the entire NFC East. Insiders suggest that the front office is seriously considering a player trade, a move that could rewrite the dynamics of the division. The Eagles, who have shown flashes of brilliance this season, appear to be at a crossroads. The chatter points to a roster shakeup that could involve one of the team's key pieces, though the exact player remains tightly under wraps. Coaches and management are reportedly weighing options that could boost their title aspiration, while simultaneously sending shockwaves to rival teams like the Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders. Fans are already buzzing on social media, speculating who could be on the move. Some point to star performers who have underperformed in crucial moments, while others suggest that a trade could target someone whose value is peaking, allowing the Eagles to capitalize strategically. Rumors hint at multiple scenarios, perhaps a blockbuster swap with another NFC East team, or a more calculated exchange that brings draft capital and future flexibility. League insiders note that timing is everything. Making the move today could signal the Eagles' seriousness about contending and set the tone for the rest of the season. Rival teams are surely keeping a close eye, analyzing how this decision might alter the balance of power in the division. A single trade could ignite a domino effect, forcing competitors to reconsider their own lineups and strategies. While official statements remain scarce, the excitement and speculation are reaching fever pitch. Analysts are already theorizing about the potential ripple effects across the league, wondering whether this bold maneuver could propel Philadelphia into contention or backfire spectacularly. The NFC East has long been unpredictable, but insiders agree that today could mark a turning point, a moment that will be dissected and debated for weeks to come. The message is clear: the Eagles are contemplating a move, and the NFL world is holding its breath. Whether this will be a masterstroke or a gamble remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: whispered trades and boardroom deliberations are the talk of the town. And the buzz isn't dying down anytime soon. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.